Welcome, everybody. It's the top of the hour, and we've got people starting to trickle in. So let's get going with our meeting and our final meeting of the spring, because it's not summer yet. That's good news. All right. Welcome to the GMC June membership meeting. I'm Greg Marcus, chair of the GMC and president and CEO of Marcus Corporation. This will be our last membership meeting of the spring, before resuming in September, and we've got a great lineup of speakers today. Before we begin, I want to make sure our entire membership is aware of some of the biggest news happening at the GMC. On May 27th, at our last board meeting, GMC President Julia Taylor announced to the board and staff her plans to retire by year-end. Julia has successfully led the GMC for nearly 2 decades as a pivotal leader through the creation of M7, the Water Council, and Milwaukee United. As board chair, I am putting together a search committee to find a successor for Julia, and we'll keep the entire membership updated as the search progresses. We will miss Julia's day-to-day work and have learned so much from her over the years, but are thankful that she will still be active in Milwaukee as an artist and community leader. Julia can be credited with bringing more diversity into membership and involving our board and organization more deeply into the improvement of all parts of Milwaukee. Thank you, Julia, for all you continue to do. And to begin today's program, I would first like to welcome 3 partners who've been working diligently to keep downtown Milwaukee vibrant and the economy strong during the past year. Peggy Williams-Smith, CEO of Visit Milwaukee, Beth Weirick, CEO of Milwaukee Downtown Bid Number 21, and Stacy Callies, Executive Director of Westtown Association. These 3 leaders join us today to talk about how they are ready for your return to the office and to the social life that downtown Milwaukee has to offer. Each could undoubtedly speak to the hit that the tourism, hospitality, and arts and entertainment industries took over the past year. But today, they're going to share some positive insight into a strong summer and fall calendar and talk about how employers can participate in this return. I first welcome Peggy Williams-Smith.
Hi, Greg. Thank you so much. My name is Peggy Williams-Smith, and I'm president and CEO of Visit Milwaukee, as Greg just said. If you're not familiar with Visit Milwaukee, our job is to increase the economic impact of the city through travel and tourism. That means bringing visitors to the region to stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, visit our cultural attractions, meet at our venues, etc. Through sales, paid advertising, and earned media, Visit Milwaukee promotes the region as a premier destination for leisure and business travel, as well as meetings and conventions. We are the only local organization solely dedicated to marketing Milwaukee on a national and international scale. When meeting planners and travelers are determining their next destination, Visit Milwaukee is who they reach out to, and we are the engine that makes Milwaukee shine and showcase the very best our community has to offer. I was asked to speak a little bit today about why you should bring your workforce back downtown, and there are several reasons. But first of all, you need to understand that our hospitality industry isn't out of crisis. If we want Milwaukee's amazing diversity to continue to be expressed through world-class dining, our live entertainment scene, our amazing nightlife, we need locals to support these businesses throughout the week and not just on weekends. But second, and perhaps more appealing, there is still so much going on downtown for them to do. And here are a few of my favorites. I don't know how to advance the slides though. Visit Milwaukee's website is the storefront for all things to see and do in Milwaukee. It's a great resource for visitors as well as locals. I'd like to recommend a few areas of content that would be helpful to your teams. First, we have a fabulous summer guide on our homepage right now with recommendations of ways to enjoy the months ahead, from beaches and parks to festivals to patio dining, and we all know that Milwaukee is the place to be in the summer. The website actually has over 3 dozen curated guides on different topics. Just to name a few, we've got a guide for beer and brewing, golfing, wellness, and many more. Head to our Things to Do section on the website to explore and to be inspired. Within our food and drink section, you can search through hundreds of restaurants and bars. It's easy to sort by the food or drink category, location, meal period, or price point. We also have curated recommendations with lists of where to go for Bloody Marys, beer gardens, frozen custard, rooftop dining, and more. Visit Milwaukee has also launched Milwaukee Deals. This is a completely free app with discounts from all of our local businesses to both help locals and visitors truly enjoy the city. We used to offer something similar in the form of a coupon book, but we've got with the times and with all of the technology and with the devastation that was wrought by the pandemic, we knew that this was something that could be easily accessible. So it's easy to sign up, download Milwaukee Deals on your phone, and then search and redeem attraction, eating and drinking, shopping, and beauty offers. We're determined not to let last year ruin this summer, and thankfully, most of our fabulous events will return, from Summerfest and State Fair to Mexican Fiesta, Juneteenth Day, the Hometown Rally, and Irish Fest. There are cultural celebrations to fill so many summer weekends. Milwaukee Brewfest just announced its plans to return, and late July will bring a brand new festival, the Food Truck Festival, at Henry Mayer Festival Park. Additionally, there are many great cultural exhibits and exhibitions your teams won't want to miss. Mandela at the Milwaukee Public Museum, the Wisconsin Center's spectacular Van Gogh immersive experience, and the new Americans in Spain exhibition at the Milwaukee Art Museum all provide the perfect lunch outing or team building activity. Plus, don't miss out on Sculpture Milwaukee, the annual exhibition of world-class sculptures along Wisconsin Avenue that is changing the face of public art in our community. We also have an annual event calendar on our website at visitmilwaukee.org, or you can visit the event website directly at milwaukee365.com. I highly recommend signing up for our monthly and weekly newsletters and following Visit Milwaukee on social media for real-time updates on all the things there are to do in our region. And we also have some conventions and events this year. In early July, the Wisconsin Center will welcome 2,000 attendees for the Hmong District of the Christian and Missionary Alliance annual convention. Later that month, Goodwill Industries will host its delegate assembly. In August, we're going to host the Garden Center show, which will bring 1,500 attendees to the Wisconsin Center, and that's new to us from Chicago for the last couple of years. And the first week in August will bring thousands of athletes to Milwaukee for USA Triathlon's Age Group National Championships. This is a huge win for Sports Milwaukee, and we've even secured the event again in 2022. It's a great opportunity for your business to get in front of these athletes and their families. Please visit sportsmilwaukee.org for sponsorship opportunities, but it's also a great way to engage your employees by having them volunteer for the USA Triathlon. We need about 700 volunteers to pull off a great event, so we're encouraging everyone to sign up. I know that the whole visit team will be there as well as I will, helping to ensure the best triathlon they've had yet. And then let's not forget that September brings us the Ryder Cup, which will certainly keep our entire region busy for those 4 days. That's all I have for you today. And once again, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. And I'm available anytime for a conversation, and I hope you'll take me up on that.
Thanks, Peggy. And I will say one of the things that highlights, and I've known obviously being involved in this industry for so long, is how important Visit is, not just to conventions, which it is, and you guys do very well with the convention business, but we've always punched above our weight in driving tourism, just to all the things that we have going on in our great community. And so I thank you for all your efforts, Peggy. It's really important as we work to rebuild the convention business, because we still have a lot of great things for people to do. So thanks. And with that, I'll move to Beth.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be with you virtually and looking very forward to when we can be in person. I'm just going to give you a quick update as we are all welcoming our workforce back into the office, so you can share with them all the variety of things that are going on in downtown Milwaukee. I think it's really important for us to continue to elevate all of the options of things to do in downtown Milwaukee and to provide connection to the community. We just finished Downtown Dining Week, and it was a great 10-day run, and it was a great opportunity. We welcomed over 30,000 diners into downtown Milwaukee. I know our restaurants were very, very appreciative of the support of our local community during Downtown Dining Week, and we have more to come this summer. So as we advance, I do want to share with you, we just 2 weeks ago launched a program called Jumpstart Downtown, and it involves a whole plethora of activities and events that I'm just going to give you a really quick review on. Here is an example of some of the media that we have been attracting with Jumpstart Downtown. It's a variety of projects and programs. I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next slides. And as you can see here, lots of activities going on. And what we've learned is the implementation of public arts and programming, particularly in open spaces, has been a really fantastic magnet for people to continue to visit downtown Milwaukee, not only in our green spaces, but to continue to support our restaurants, our hotels, and of course, our retailers. So these are just some of the examples of some of the phenomenal social and digital media that we've been getting with the program with Jumpstart Milwaukee. One of the first programs that we launched, we were really excited about, was called Tati's Truck. This was an intersection of street food meets street art, and it featured the Filipino food truck meet on the street, and we focused on this great intersection working with a local artist, Emma Daisy Gertel. And we will be having lunch and greet programs featuring Tati's Truck all summer long. So please join us for that. Another project that we unveiled was Massimil's Milwaukee Rainbow. Many of you saw the Massimil's installation this winter. They were white polar bears that were in Cathedral Square Park. And then to celebrate the kickoff of Pride Month, the Massimil's were pulled. We painted them in rainbow colors, and they were unveiled again last week. Another project that we just unveiled last week is True Colors with artist Josephine Rice. So if you're standing in Pere Marquette Park and you look across the river, you can see this beautiful chalk drawing installation on the stairs at the Peck Pavilion at the Marcus Performing Center. In addition, we are really excited. We have the largest mural ever in process of being installed right now at Schlitz Park. Local artist Greg Gossel has been working on this project for about 2 weeks. It's a 10,000 square foot mural, and it's expected to be completed this week. We're really excited. We'll be having a celebration with the leadership of Schlitz Park during Downtown Employee Appreciation Week. So another mural that's coming the weekend of 4th of July is called What Lifts You? Many of you in your travels, even though they've been reduced somewhat this past year, may have seen these famous angel wings by artist Kelsey Montague. In partnership with our leaders over at the Wisconsin Center District, Kelsey will be installing a mural over the 4th of July weekend at the UW Milwaukee Panther Arena. I'm really excited. We're not installing the typical angel wings. We are installing peacock feathers, which will coincide with the Wisconsin Center expansion theme of building more pride. So in addition to that mural, Wisconsin Center District leadership and Bid 21 leadership wanted to do more. So we issued a call for local artists in mid-May under the theme of building more pride. And we will be installing some of this work at the at several of the streetcar stops. So look for some of that work as we move forward. So I do want to alert you that we will be launching our Make It Back campaign. This is a campaign that will be focused on people getting back to work in downtown Milwaukee, visiting downtown Milwaukee, and of course, supporting our local retailers, our hospitality industry, and of course, continuing to enjoy everything that we have to offer in downtown Milwaukee. This Make It Back campaign will be a multimedia campaign. We are working with Purple Onion on filming, and we will be producing 15 and 30-second spots featuring visitors, employees, and of course, delegates coming into the city of Milwaukee. So we're filming on June 22nd. It says 23rd there, sorry about that. And the campaign will launch on July 5th and will run through late September, right up until the time we begin to market and promote everything for Milwaukee Holiday Lights Festival. So lots of things as you are encouraging your workforce back to the office and to support our industries in downtown Milwaukee. You can get more information at milwaukeedowntown.com/experience. We found that the public is really enjoying the blogs that our team has been creating relative to urban walks and itineraries throughout all of downtown Milwaukee. It really focuses on our popular attractions, of course, our public arts interactive maps, and of course, Sculpture Milwaukee is going to be really popular. So lots of things to do and see in downtown Milwaukee. I do encourage you to continue to share this information with your workforce, even if there's a hybrid model right now. It's important for us to connect our workforce to the community and let them know that there are still a lot of activities and events that are going on. The other thing I strongly encourage you to do to be up to date on all the activities and events is go to our website, MilwaukeeDowntown.com, and subscribe to our hot list and our Ripple Effect newsletters. We will be in July also launching a Make It Back business toolkit for all of you to use. This will be a great resource for your human resource team members, and it'll be suggested messaging for a return to the workplace, as well as how to communicate about new COVID-19 workplace protocols with your employees. Again, resources will be available in July. So please, if you're interested in getting added to our HR database, please click on that link below, and we would love to hear from you. I do want to let you know that we are launching Downtown Employee Appreciation Week. It'll be a grand welcome back event for our downtown workforce. It will be returning on Monday, August 30th, and will run through Friday, September 3rd, with daily lunchtime activities and lots of activities and events for our workforce to get re-engaged and reconnect with the community. Here's just a sample of our 2019 listing of Downtown Employee Appreciation Week events. As you can see, lots of activities. Our call to action to you is, number one, please invite your workforce to participate. This is going to be a great rally. It'll be like a homecoming week for our entire workforce and reconnecting in the community. And we promise we'll have lots of fun activities, events, and giveaways to celebrate. We are looking for sponsorship of food and other events. So if you are interested, you can contact me directly at theweirk@MilwaukeeDowntown.com. So for more information, please check out MilwaukeeDowntown.com or just give me a call or an email. So thanks so much, and we're all excited to make it back.
Thanks, Beth. Stacy?
Thank you, Greg. My name is Stacy Calise, and I am excited to partner with both Beth and Peggy to welcome people back to our downtown neighborhood. I'm here to speak to you today about the Milwaukee Night Market, which is a very popular event that was established by Milwaukee in 2014. It's a free outdoor event that showcases a variety of local vendors, performers, and artists. The Milwaukee Night Market transforms West Wisconsin Avenue into an exciting fusion of all the city has to offer. This year, West Town Association has developed a strategic partnership to assume production of the night market. And we're excited to announce that we'll be bringing the event back on Wednesday, August 18th from 5 to 10 p.m. right on West Wisconsin Avenue. The West Town Association is the nonprofit business association that represents the area west of the Milwaukee River. And we felt that this event really does align perfectly with our mission. So we're excited to assume production of the event. The August 18th night market is the first major event in the city of Milwaukee to welcome back downtown employees, as well as activate our neighborhood for residents and visitors. The Milwaukee Night Market provides a safe, fun, and collaborative space for individuals of all ages and backgrounds to experience Milwaukee. A recent study by the Urban Institute found a connection between the night market and economic recovery of West Wisconsin Avenue corridor. This summer, the program has a specific focus on recovery for small, locally owned businesses that have been hit hardest by the pandemic. Additionally, to ensure an equally representative event, we intend to create a scholarship fund to underwrite vendor fees. And this is where we need your help. Our goal is to raise $100,000 in corporate sponsorship to underwrite the event's operation. We really need the support of the private sector, as the fundraising campaign for an event like the night market usually takes place year round. However, now that the city's restrictions have been released, we have decided to collaborate on an event yet in 2021 to bring people back downtown. So we have our timeframe for fundraising is much shorter than typical. We just ask that our private sector partners consider sponsoring this event. And if not this year, potentially in the future. We have some great sponsorship opportunities with rates starting at $3,000. So we're very excited to bring the night market back to downtown Milwaukee this summer. Westtown Association will also be producing a halfway to St. Patrick's parade on Saturday, September 25th. Due to the COVID, the event was canceled in both 2020 and 2021 in March. So we're excited to welcome people back downtown for that as well. Please contact me if you're interested in participating in any way, if you know a vendor or if you know another company that might be interested in partnering on the event.
Thanks, Stacy and Peggy and Beth. Those are great updates. Glad to see we've got such good stuff going on and getting people back downtown. And I think it's just going to take, take some time. People forget how great it is to be here, but once they do, we've got them. It helps to have a great product, and we do, and you all do. And thank you for selling it so well. And now for our monthly COVID update. The GMC's Business Leader Vaccine Advisory Committee is still meeting regularly and met late last week. What we know is the vaccines are working, but we've hit a plateau in vaccinating crucial populations in our region, specifically communities of color in the city of Milwaukee. And as Dr. Raymond will touch on, we are now facing the Delta variant, which is more contagious and deadly. It's crucial that we continue to mobilize all efforts around vaccinations if we want to enjoy everything our previous guests laid out. I'd also like to thank Lisa Olson and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services for a generous gift of $300,000 to our community mobilization efforts. This will allow us to more efficiently bring the vaccine to the people and create trust between the community and the vaccine. And now I welcome Dr. John Raymond, President and CEO of the Medical College of Wisconsin, to share a COVID update. Dr. Raymond?
Thank you, Greg. If we can go to the first slide, please. I'll just be brief here. The numbers continue to be good. These are as low as they have been since April of 2020. And the trends continue to be favorable in terms of new confirmed cases, case positivity, both here in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin. Our R number was very low in the middle of last week at 0.66, the lowest since the beginning of the pandemic. It's been over 1 for the last 3 days, but the numbers are low and all the other indicators are favorable, but this is something that we can keep an eye on. Next slide, please. Similar numbers with deaths. We were at 6 yesterday, but our 7-day average daily number is 2, and it's in Wisconsin and 0.4 here, again, trending favorably. Hospitalizations and ICU utilization are at their low point since the beginning of the pandemic and continuing to trend favorably. Next slide, please. A picture's worth 1,000 words, and you can see starting on the left that most of the state was critically high in terms of case burden in November. In March, it started to decline, but still was high, and that's the darker blue in most of the counties of Wisconsin. And going to the right, the most recently available data from the DHS website shows continuing favorable trends with 3 counties that are at a medium burden. So this is really, really good news. Next slide, please. Vaccinations, as Greg mentioned, we're at 48.9% fully vaccinated, or I'm sorry, 1 dose in Wisconsin and 43.8% fully vaccinated, lagging just a little bit in Milwaukee, but catching up at 46.9 with a single dose and 40.6% fully vaccinated. I think this is important though to think about just for a little while. We were leading the country and being in the top 5 to 10 in terms of first doses given for quite a long time. And that has tailed off very noticeably over the last 6 weeks. We're catching up. We're still in the top 15 in terms of full vaccinations, but our pipeline is drying up. We're not having a lot of folks getting a first shot. So that gets back to addressing vaccine confidence issues in a number of different populations. We're unlikely to hit President Biden's 70% goal, at least here in Wisconsin, by July 4th. We'll come close, but I don't think we're going to hit 70%. Next slide, please. So 2.3 billion vaccine doses given worldwide. US continues to be first in world total vaccinations, over 300 million. We as a country are still doing well, but starting to fall behind a little bit, like the trends we've seen in Wisconsin compared to other countries. At one point, we were in the top 4. Right now, we're still in the top 10. So 43% have completed the series in the US. We're behind Israel, Bahrain, Aruba, Mongolia, which is a new entrant to the list, Malta, Curacao, Chile, and the UK passed us, which is something interesting. And Qatar and Hungary are very close to us. I do want to talk about two things. It's a tale of two countries. So if you look at Israel, a couple things to note. They've been stuck at 57% vaccination for about a month, yet they're still doing reasonably well. So they haven't achieved what we would classically call herd immunity, but their new case burden, hospitalization, severe disease remain low. They do not have significant penetration of the Delta variant, which is one of the Indian variants yet. And so that's something to monitor. On the other hand, the UK, which was behind us in terms of vaccinations, has caught up with us. They're having a surge, and it's a troubling one, where you're having this Delta variant infect younger people who are getting much more ill than they were earlier in the pandemic and getting sicker faster. And as we know, the transmissibility of the Delta variant is very high. It's double the UK variant, which was double most of the other variants. So we need to pay attention to both countries just in terms of what might happen here. Next slide, please. I'll just skip over the data. The data in the US are all trending favorably, just like they have been here in Wisconsin. Some good news, under 12 years old may be eligible for vaccination by autumn. Both Pfizer and Moderna are conducting studies of children under 12, and they expect those the results to be reported in September. I expect the FDA to give full approval to the 2 mRNA vaccines sometime this summer. Could happen as early as late June. And the US vaccines that we have are effective against the current variants, including the Delta, but only if you take both doses of the 2-dose regimen. If you just take a single dose, it does not give particularly good protection against the Delta variant. Next slide, please. And just finally, I wanted to make people aware of a change in classification of the variants. As you can see on the right, there are 3 levels listed by the CDC: variants of interest, variants of concern, which have evidence of increased transmission or virulence, or initial indications that there may be some escape from immunity, and then variants of consequence, which fortunately there are none yet, which would be clear evidence that there's no prevention and previous treatment measures don't work. So if you look on the left, there are 4 variants of concern that are spreading in the US: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta. Alpha is the UK variant, which is predominant in the US now. Within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we expect the Delta variant, which is the B.1.617.2 Indian variant, to be the most prevalent variant here in the US. And again, that bears watching. There is not great protection from immunity if you only get 1 of the 2 shots of the mRNA vaccines. Clearly much more contagious, and very strong indications that this variant likes younger people and it causes more severe disease. Other variants are variants of interest, and those are shown in blue on the left. And I'll turn it back over to Greg.
Thanks, Dr. Raymond. One question we got to the panelists, to you. What is the race data on the recent deaths in Wisconsin? Do we know?
We do know that there still is a slight predisposition to bad outcomes if the individual is African American, Black, Hispanic, Latinx, or some Asian minorities like Hmong in Wisconsin, as well as Native Americans. The numbers are so small that what I could say is it doesn't appear that the trend has changed. But again, there aren't a lot of deaths that we've been reporting, only 2 per day.
Okay, thank you. As we move towards September, please share your reopening plans with us and consider hosting a vaccine clinic for your employees and their families. We really, we're falling behind the country, the top part. We led the country in vaccinations, and we were in the top 10 for a long time, but we have hit a wall. And with Delta variant coming, now is the time. We have a window. We shouldn't, as they say, we shouldn't waste our shot. And let's do everything we can to get people vaccinated in all our communities, but especially our communities of color. As if you look at a map, if you go to the Milwaukee County website, you can see where we're seeing under vaccination, and it really is in our central city. We've got to get people on board that the vaccines work. So for the remainder of today's program, I'm happy to share that we're not focusing on COVID, but focusing on assets that are important to our community, our utilities. After the crisis that happened in Texas with their unregulated utilities, causing major outages and utility bills in the thousands for many residents, Mary Ellen Stanek brought to our attention how strong and secure utilities in our region are. We all rely on utilities to keep our doors open, but how often do we think about how the high quality security and innovation that our local utilities provide as being an asset to our economy? For example, Milwaukee is known as the freshwater capital of the world. Initiatives like the Water Council, which the GMC helped to create in 2009, is a great example of how organizations work with resources, water. But today we're going to be introduced to the ins and outs of the utilities themselves. We'll hear from WEC Energy Group, Metropolitan Milwaukee Sewerage District, and Milwaukee Water Works on the safety, security, and innovation that each is known for. I first welcome Scott Lauber, Shalu from WEC Energy Group. Scott's the Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. In this role, Scott has senior oversight responsibility for information technology, major projects, power generation, supply chain, supplier diversity, and WEC infrastructure and fuels. He also serves as president of Michigan Gas Utilities and Minnesota Energy Resources. Shah is Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. In this role, Shah's overall responsibility for the company's strategic and long-range financial planning, corporate forecasting and budgeting, treasury, accounting, tax, insurance, and risk management functions. Shah joined WEC Energy Group in June 2020 and has received multiple honors and awards, including, most recently, recognition as a 2020 Top 50 Women in Finance award by the National Diversity Council. Welcome, Scott and Shah.
Well, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. This is Scott here, and I'd like to, walk us through what happened in Texas and what we're doing, and then Shah will walk us through where we're going in the future. So if we could have the next slide, please. So just as all of you know, WEC Energy Group, we have about 4.6 million retail customers, predominantly in Wisconsin and in southeastern Wisconsin. Of course, we're known as WE Energies, but we also have operations in Michigan, Minnesota, and in Chicago and Illinois there. Next slide, please. As we think of the Arctic event, and to be honest with you, and we're in that cold spell, in Wisconsin, we've all seen colder, but it was very cold. And when you look at Texas, it was much colder than normal. And it got to 0 temperatures in Texas. Unfortunately, it was very sad. That extreme temperature, about 100 people lost their lives because of the weather. And reliability and keeping the houses warm and the electricity on is very critical, as you know, from a business standpoint, but also for safety and reliability. So we looked at what's the differences between Texas and Wisconsin. And we talked a little bit here, and you mentioned Texas is deregulated. And Texas really looks at how do you keep the cost as low as possible. Very cost driven, not putting any extra investments in the ground, trying to get the cost as cheap as possible, and energy driven. Can we get as much megawatt hours out as we can and deliver that energy as cheaply as possible? They're all looking at that cost aspect. Also in Texas, they kind of created an island. So very little transmission integration. So when a weather event happens in one part of the state or in the state, it's hard to bring energy in from outside the state. Wisconsin is really set up very differently. You know, we're regulated with the Wisconsin Public Service Commission. They really look at our plans. Between Wisconsin Public Service Commission and the Midwest System Operator, they not only take cost into effect, but also the reliability. And the reliability we need not only for energy, but also for capacity on those peak days. So we call those peak days the Super Bowl events, or this week, the NBA playoff events that you have to be prepared for and bring your game in and be reliable. So on those peak days, it's not just the summer peak when it's the hottest day, but it's the winter peak when it's the coldest day, or every day of the year throughout the year, because the fall and spring also have different type of events that you have to be prepared for. Also, with that Midwest System Operator, our operations are very integrated with other utilities. So even this last week, where it was warm in one parts of the state and not as warm in others, you're able to shift energy across the nation, across the Midwest, to take advantage of other people's generation and our generation, especially if anyone has any issues on the system, or to get to the right energy mix across the territory. Next slide, please. So on the Arctic event, very proud of the fact we were able to keep all the customers connected. We did not have to interrupt anyone, whether related to gas, electric, or our steam system. As you can imagine, that's very critical when you're getting to 20, 25 below zero. Extreme weather conditions is very health and safety related. So how do we do this? Well, just like everything else in the business world, diversity is one of our strengths. So fuel diversity, and you can see we have wind, solar, coal, natural gas, nuclear, oil, and hydro. The strength of this diversity mix, some days, like the last couple of days when it was really hot, the wind didn't blow so much, but the sun shined. So having that mix be able to complement across the different weather conditions is important. We also look at fuel management. So in those very cold days, we have stored fuel on site. You know, we had coal on site. We set the coal up in such a way that it doesn't freeze. We're able to access it on those particular days. In our gas and electric system, we have storage facilities. We have storage facilities in case the pipelines have an issue. We also have LNG, or liquefied natural gas facilities. And in fact, we have 2 of those proposed at our Wisconsin Public Service Commission now to make sure we have on-site storage in those extreme weather events. We also purchase firm gas supply to make sure we have the best access to gas in order to get up to Wisconsin. And we have backup fuel. So what do I mean by backup fuel? Well, when in that cold event in February, gas prices were really high. Some of the constraints on the gas pipeline, we were actually asked to switch some of our production from natural gas to oil. And we brought in about 350 truckloads of oil to maintain the system. So having that diversity, having the options available really helped us keep the lights on and the gas in the houses warm. And our system is really designed to meet the weather. You know, you hear a lot of stories in Texas that the windmills and the wind turbines didn't spin during that time. Well, you know, we invested in technology to make sure we had the cold weather package on our wind turbines. And when you think about the cost, you know, for a, you know, $250, $300 million wind farm, it maybe costs an extra $1.5 million to put in that cold weather package. Down in the South, that's additional costs, and they're trying to keep their rates as low as possible. And also resiliency. We know we have to deliver. So, you know, do you have that backup with the oil? Do you have the backup on the storage fuel with LNG? So these are all items that we look at to make sure we're keeping the houses warm, the electricity flowing, and our businesses in business. So with that, that's kind of what happened in polar event. And if you go to the next slide, we'll have Shaw walk us through where are we going in the future.
Thank you, Scott. So in terms of our ESG focus, we're making great progress at WEC. We recently issued our new climate goals or carbon reduction goals. So as you could see on this chart, we target our electric generation fleet to be net carbon neutral by 2050. In the interim, we have a 80% reduction goal by the end of 2030. You see that dotted dot on the line, and a 60% reduction goal by 2025. You could also see on the chart that at the end of last year, 2020, we have already achieved over 50% reduction. So these goals really are industry leading goals, and they're aligned with the Paris Climate Accord and supports the governor's climate goals in the state. Next slide, please. To achieve these goals, we plan to retire older, less efficient fossil fuel generation facilities and invest in new wind, solar, and battery storage facilities. So for the next 5 years alone, we plan to invest almost $2 billion capital in the state of Wisconsin. These facilities will not only help us achieve our carbon reduction goals, they will also help with job creation and help drive the state's economy and our community's economy. Additionally, over the longer term, because these facilities come with lower operating and fuel costs, that they're expected to save customers more than $1 billion over the next 20 years. Next slide, please. So that was on the generation side, electric generation side. On the gas distribution network side, we also have announced a goal of net zero methane emission by the year 2030. So we plan to achieve this goal through three aspects of the efforts. One, continuous operational improvements. Two, equipment and system upgrades. And three, the use of renewable natural gas throughout our utility systems. As you all know, that we have many dairy farms in the state, and we're actively working with them to find solutions to provide a renewable natural gas into our distribution networks. So overall, that's the WEC's climate effort, and it will help the environment, the state economy, as well as the customers and community. Next slide, please. So our business is really driven by the fundamental goals to provide our customers with energy that is affordable, reliable, and clean. So that's kind of what Scott and I had in mind, and we're looking forward to the panel discussion later in a few minutes.
Thank you, Scott and Shaw. Our next presenter is Mike Martin, Director of Technical Services with the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. In this role, Mike oversees the district's $90 million annual capital improvement program and $50 million annual privatized operation and maintenance contract. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about MMSD and the work we do, particularly as it relates to infrastructure reliability as we carry out our mission. I assume you can see my slide presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. So for those of you who are not familiar with the sewer district, we are a state chartered regional agency serving Southeast Wisconsin, about 1.1 million customers, 28 municipalities, most communities within Milwaukee County than the surrounding municipalities. We have 2 wastewater treatment plants or water reclamation facilities, over 300 miles of interceptor sewers, not the local sewers, but the interceptor sewers. We have a deep tunnel storage system, and then finally we do flood management. And I'll speak to each of these and how we provide reliable service. So some of our essential service goals, pretty obvious, but we do want to collect and convey wastewater. And in that, we do not want to have basement backups, and we do not want to have overflows. So once that wastewater gets collected and conveyed safely, we treat the wastewater at either our Jones Island or South Shore Water Reclamation Facility, and we discharge clean water, We are regulated by the state of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. We have to meet those permit conditions. We always work to do it cost effectively. And obviously it's 24/7, 365. So how do we achieve that reliable performance under all conditions? Those are photos of our 2 treatment plants. Again, South Shore's on the north, and then Jones Island, right just immediately south of Summerfest grounds. They are very large, complex processing facility. There's hundreds of systems within those, thousands and thousands of pieces of equipment. It's somewhat of a dangerous environment with hazardous gases. There's explosion risks at our Milwaukee production facility. And then probably one of our bigger risks are wet weather risks. Whenever it rains, that creates a real challenge for us. So in terms of the reliable performance, we use time-tested, robust processes, treatment plants. The process at Jones Island and South Shore has been around for a long time. We have lots of equipment redundancy. We analyze that routinely and continuously. We provide ongoing risk assessments and then make proactive improvements in our processes over time. And then we have an very proactive equipment replacement program. Then finally, for the flows that come into the plant, we have source controls programs so that whatever comes to our plant does not create any issues. So one of our bigger challenges is weather, obviously during wet weather. And when we have rain or even snowmelt runoff, it really stresses our system. We get leakage from the leakage of sewers creates inflow and infiltration. We also have a portion of our system as a combined sewer system. And that increased risk throughout our system, increased the risk of basin backups, increase the risk of overflows, plant operations, and then also with the type of weather, stormy weather can create power supply disruptions. So the way we help reduce the risk during wet weather, first of all, we do have a deep tunnel system which collects wastewater and stores it temporarily for treatment. We have wet weather diversions in our collection system, which allows, as flows rise in the sewers, they divert, and they can either go to pump stations where it's safely pumped, or it simply diverts it into the deep tunnel system. We have specific operations at the treatment plants for wet weather. And then we have backup power supplies throughout the power system. So if they lose power, we have emergency backup generators. So another key is our energy supply reliability. Obviously, without energy, we cannot continue to operate. So to ensure we have reliable operations, we have multiple sources of power at our treatment plants, including sustainable power and energy reuse. At treatment plants, we have multiple WEC Energy sources, but we also generate our own electricity using either landfill gas or digester gas. We have an agreement with the GFL landfill, Emerald Park landfill down in Muskego. We also have self-generating capacity using natural gas. We also reuse the waste heat from those generation operations for plant operations. Again, at our pumping stations, we have backup power generation, and then we have black start capability. So if we lose power, we can start back up from scratch. Another concern for us is IT security. You may have heard over the past 6 months of some issues with the water plant down in Florida, where a hacker got into their system. That's a continuous concern for us. We have a number of control systems, our plant industrial controls. We have a communication system for our conveyance system, and then obviously our business systems. Our IT staff routinely and continuously monitor those threats. They use a threat prevention system modeled on the Center for Internet Security framework, and they continuously adjust according to the audit threat landscape. So beyond just regular wastewater treatment, we also do water course and flood management, and that helps reduce risks throughout the region for property damage, property owners' need for flood insurance, safety and drowning risks, health risks, and also flow into the sanitary sewers. And we do that in a way while naturalizing streams and help improve water quality. So you'll see a couple pictures here of work we have done. Since 1995, we have taken out about 2,100 structures out of the regulatory floodplain. About 1,300 remain. You can see in the upper left, there's a picture. This is in Pulaski Park. There's a lot of concrete line channels that were installed in the 1960s. They're old and cracking up. We replaced those with naturalized streams. We've taken out about 4.4 miles of concrete line channels, and almost 19 miles remain. just a couple photos to show you some of that work. Again, this was just finished last fall. Underwood Creek out on the west side, another great project in cooperation with the Corps of Engineers, where we took out the concrete channel and naturalized the stream. Green infrastructure is another way that helps us reduce our risk during wet weather. It captures rain at the property level. A whole variety of techniques for green infrastructure, reduces the runoff, reduces both the quantity and the quality of the runoff. It cleans it up, and then also helps reduce basement backup and overflow risk. We have a very active program of green infrastructure. And then finally, keeping our rates low. We have very conservative fiscal policies. We have a privatized operation maintenance contract since 1998. Currently, that contract is with Veolia Water. It saved the ratepayers about $200 million. We create and sell milorganite out of the wastewater process. We project in 2021 about $12 million in sales to offset costs. Mentioned the landfill gas purchase agreement saves us about 50% of the cost versus natural gas. We have very high bond ratings, AAA or AA+. We obtain Clean Water Act low interest rate loans. We try to leverage partnerships. We've got a great partnership with the Corps of Engineers. This all translates to the average home chart. It costs them about $40 a month for services from the district. So I think I'm about out of time, but there's a lot of things we do to retain businesses. Clean water is key to the quality of life. We thought with the number of, with the triathlon, if the triathlon was held 20 years ago with the number of overflows we used to have, it would not be a pleasant task. With the reduction in overflows that we've had, you can now hold things like triathlons in our rivers. So a lot of work that we do contributes to the quality of life in this region. So with that, I want to thank everyone.
Thanks, Mike. Our final presenter is Karen Detmer, Superintendent of the Milwaukee Water Works.
Good afternoon, everyone. And on behalf of a former participant of that USAT triathlon that happened in 2014, I'm very grateful to Visit Milwaukee and to MMSD for ensuring that that is going to happen again. So fantastic event and excited about that. So as Greg mentioned, I am the Superintendent of Milwaukee Water Works, or General Manager of Milwaukee Water Works. Next slide. And we are a part of the City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works. And through that, we participated in the 7 principles of the water-centric cities. So as we hear about Milwaukee being a fresh coast, one of those 7 principles is really designed in making sure that we have a sustainable and healthy water supply. Next slide. Just a little bit about our service area. We have a population served of about 860,000, and that represents 16 communities in 3 different counties. Soon, we will be adding to that number of communities to include the city of Waukesha. And I'm happy to answer questions about that, but don't have a whole lot of detail in this particular presentation. And we have our distribution area. Our retail customers are represented here on this map in blue. And that means that we handle all of the billing, all of the distribution mains that get the water to the city, to the consumers, the metering. Our wholesale customers are represented here in green, and those are customers in our suburban communities that we essentially get the water, the treated water, pump it to their community's front door, and they take it from there and get it out to their consumers. On an annual basis, we pump about 30 billion gallons of water, so pretty significant here in our service area. Next slide. I'm not going to go into detail here, but just want to highlight that we do have an abundance of information on our website related to our treatment processes. But in the interest of time, certainly just want to provide this graphic to show that it is a very complex process to ensure that we are pumping raw water from Lake Michigan, treating it to extensive safety standards, and then getting it out to our distribution community. Next slide. And in those pumping facilities, we built up our pumping capacity at a time when Milwaukee was in its industrial heyday. So significant amount of consumption that we formerly had that has now been reduced. So we have 2 treatment plants. Our capacity for treatment and pumping is approximately 360 million gallons per day. Next slide. But we've seen that pumpage and that consumption decline significantly over the years as people are getting more efficient, as businesses are getting more efficient, as laundry machines and dishwashers are getting more efficient. And we love to see that, but that does mean we also need to be more efficient. Next slide. So we recently implemented a vast variety of efforts towards efficiency, not only looking at our physical infrastructure and how we can ensure that our treatment processes, but also our distribution system are operating at its most efficient, but also looking at how we're doing things, how we're managing the system, reducing electrical consumption. Sorry, Scott and Gia, but also making sure that when we're pumping and filling our tanks, we're doing that when those peak rates are lowest. And I think WE Energy's likely thanks us for that, because we're ensuring that we're not taking away from that capacity during these hot days like today and the past couple of weeks. Next slide. But we also want to make sure that we are keeping up and on emerging contaminants. So many of you likely remember in 1993 where we had a cryptosporidium outbreak in Milwaukee. And it is still to this day one of the largest public health, or the largest public health catastrophe that has been caused by drinking water. And we had no idea that it was even possible cryptosporidium would be present in Lake Michigan. And we don't want to make that mistake again. We made upgrades to our treatment processes during that time. And we are right now looking at what are other future emerging contaminants that we may need to be prepared for. Perfluorinated compounds are one that really could reduce our ability to provide clean drinking water to our consumers. Now, we have such an abundance of water in Lake Michigan, and we know that there are perfluorinated compounds in Lake Michigan, but at minute levels. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to be any less diligent in being prepared to ensure that we will be able to safely treat that water in the future if those levels rise. We also, similar to what Mike presented, have an abundance of resiliency efforts. We have generators at our most important pumping facilities and treatment plants to ensure that if there is an issue, cyber resiliency, if there's an attack on one of our partner utilities, or if there's an attack on our utility, that we can go offline, we can run our treatment plants, we can run our distribution system, and we have the energy needs and to be prepared to manage our system and get that clean, safe drinking water to all of our customers. This recently came up in this past February, where we had about 3 weeks of very, very low temperatures and a lot of energy consumption. And we heard most prominently what was happening in Texas and the lack of resiliency of the water utilities in Texas. Well, we have that resiliency here to an extent. And of course, we're always looking for opportunities to increase that resiliency. During that time, it wasn't widely publicized, but we actually went off of our natural gas and onto our propane tanks that we had in stock at our treatment plant to ensure that we were keeping costs low, we were avoiding those surge prices, and we were still able to manage our system properly. Next slide. And I know we're running a little short on time, so I'll run through these. Just to note that we're not just doing this on our own, we're doing this on a national level, and we're required to do so as we should be. Go ahead with the next slide. And communication is a part of that. So we have a regular communication with our customers, but we also have procedures in place in case a catastrophe happens again, and we need to get direct communication out. Next slide. I'll pass these couple of next slides, but ultimately we're talking about climate resiliency. We've seen a couple of episodes recently where we've had increased storm frequency and just the size of the storms that we are certainly having to look at and be prepared for. I mentioned cryptosporidium and how we did not know. So currently, the DNR and the EPA regulate approximately 100 contaminants for water utilities. We sample for almost 500 possible contaminants for water utilities, and we have an extensive certified water quality lab to make sure that we are on top of any issues that may come up, and that includes the potential for a cyber attack. What we saw in Florida, as Mike mentioned, was someone hacking into their system, increasing the amount of a particular treatment chemical that could turn that water poisonous. They found it, thank goodness, and we are certain that we would find it too and wouldn't be subject to that sort of issue. Next slide. And as I mentioned, regulations and meeting the regulations is just not enough. So we've recently partnered, we've been working on for the past 3 years, a partnership with the American Water Works Association, where we have a structure in place that we are going toward continuous improvement. We are going above and beyond. Regulations are not enough when it comes to our water quality. So we put in place goals from everywhere along the line, every single section of our utility, from engineering design, tracking how our water is pumped and processed through our system, ensuring that our operations are as efficient as possible so that we can keep those rates low. Also looking at what sort of cybersecurity needs we need to implement. We were, very beneficial in receiving some information from the Department of Homeland Security and some special treatment in anticipation of the DNC that was to occur in Milwaukee in 2020. And it was such a great use of their knowledge and their information that added to our cyber resiliency. And we're moving that needle in our partnership for safe water in our distribution system to ensure that we're keeping towards those goals and always improving. I think anyone that you talk to in IT security will tell you it's only a matter of time. And we want to ensure that we are certainly prepared for when that time comes and we become a target so that you as a consumer will not see any difference in your water quality. Next slide. And just a final note, we've been working for the past 3 years now with MMSD, Milwaukee Water Commons, MATC, and many other partners to ensure that our water is distributed as equitably as possible. And that comes down to affordability, not necessarily having the cheapest rates or the lowest rates, but looking at how we can help our customers pay their bills and how that flexibility can come into play when they may have to miss a payment. Also looking at the economic, social, and environmental benefits of water systems. We actually prepared a report in coordination with the U.S. Water Alliance and MMSD, looking at making sure that our workforce development is being done in the most equitable way so that we can bring jobs to the local community. And ensuring, of course, that we're resilient as we see climate change. And that is my final slide. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Now I'm turning it over to Mary Ellen Stanek, Managing Director and Chief Investment Officer of Baird, to moderate a panel discussion between today's presenters. Take it away, Mary Ellen.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you to all of our presenters. Certainly this topic is one I don't want to say that we take these assets and these partners for granted, but when they are performing as expected, they're reliable, they're resilient, and affordable, it is human nature that we do take them for granted. And because we just lived through an extreme set of circumstances, both in Texas, but Karen was referring to the cybersecurity attacks on water supply more recently. Certainly it's a topic that I think we will all sleep better at night, just knowing how well run these organizations are and how deep they are in terms of their knowledge and expertise in terms of managing our critical infrastructure all to the greater good for the community, but also an important issue for our business community. So I'm going to start with extreme climate change. And certainly Milwaukee has experienced extreme climates on both ends of the spectrum. And the infrastructure appears to be prepared to withstand the extremes or God forbid, a natural disaster. But each of you, if you could, highlight safety and security features. Some of you have referred to them within your presentation, but safety and security features of your utility that others throughout the country may not offer. Let's start with either Shaw or Scott.
Sure, thanks, Mary Ellen. You know, we are being regulated. We are very integrated and tied in. When you think of cybersecurity, we are tied in with the FBI and other organizations. So we're really in a collaborative method here. We're part of Electric Power Research Institute. We're part of the Gas Technology Institute. So I don't know if we do many things different than others, other than work together to make sure we all have the best playing field on doing it. When you think about the change in climate, though, over time, and as we go to more renewables, we really have to look at the different seasons of the year, and not just used to be just summer. Now it's spring. Now it's winter. And how do we look at that? And even when you think about the different water levels. Places that weren't floodplains before, although it's pretty dried out right now, they are maybe falling into floodplains. So we are constantly monitoring that information. But cybersecurity in that last presentation is critical, and we're trying to stay on top of it, like we said, with many organizations throughout the country.
Karen, anything further you'd like to add?
And really, just building off of Scott and what he said, the season changes here, I think, have been a benefit to us. When we were fielding questions about our resiliency, when Texas was dealing with their energy needs, and certainly the water utilities were seeing a number of main breaks because of the freezing temperatures that they weren't prepared for. A lot of that was happening here. I think communication has a big part of it. Some of you may have seen Mayor Barrett and I on a Zoom meeting on a Saturday afternoon where we were warning the public that the extreme temperatures were going to cause some water main breaks, and please call them in, and here's the proper way to do it. We're prepared and we have the capacity to manage that sort of influx in our responsibilities. But as we see those extreme temperatures fluctuate more and more, I think we're going to have to be prepared to do more operational changes. What the public is seeing is our crews responding to and repairing a water main break. What we're doing on the back end, or I guess on the front end really, is ensuring that our water treatment plant operators are watching the system, watching the pressures within the system, pulling back on those pressures as needed in particular areas to ensure the delicate balance of providing as much water is needed, but not increasing the pressure so much that we're creating more potential water main breaks as that ground contracts and expands. So it's a very delicate and unexact science. We were fortunate that we have been dealing with temperatures and season changes, but we will see more of it in the future, and are thinking ahead on how we can better manage our system as that occurs.
Great, thank you. Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that as we have become, in the last 10 to 15 years, more aware of climate change, we have partnered with the Wisconsin Initiative on Climate Change Impacts over at University of Wisconsin, and they have developed models to predict how climate change will impact frequency of those intense rain events. So as the science has gotten better on that, we take that into account when we do our modeling for flooding. So we are now able to, we build more capacity into our flood management systems, and then also on how we manage reduction in overflows. We have taken that science, as good as it is, it's still a prediction, and we try to take that into account. That's fairly unique in the industry. The other thing that we're doing is when we design our flood management systems, we don't take into account the positive impact that green infrastructure will have on reducing flows. So as we build the system as if green infrastructure doesn't exist, but when green infrastructure is built, it holds back those flows, so it provides a buffer for us that helps over the long term, and helps reduce the future impact. We have a number of programs that really try in the long term reduce the impacts of climate change by providing additional buffers for flooding and runoff.
Great, thank you. Switching gears a little bit, each of you could talk about your organizations. They're all regulated in one shape or form or similar regulation, but how that plays in terms of the impact on your ability to introduce new technology. And particularly, Shah, I'd like to start with you. You did a great job talking about the ESG goals and the great progress that's being made there, but talk about the regulatory environment and then your ability to drive new technology.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Ellen. I think as we both, Scott and I, highlighted, I think we always think through the business fundamentals. Do we provide affordable, reliable, and clean energy into our customers? So in terms of deploying new technology, we really think from those angles. In the next 5 years capital plan, we have over $1 billion of capital dedicated to new technology, including the new advanced metering infrastructure that would help us reduce day-to-day manual work for customer service or two-way communication or outage management. So that's one angle, is just think from deploying new technology to provide more reliable and more affordable energy in the future. We also are very much aligned with the climate effort that I described. We work with the customers on solar, some large commercial industrial customers, any solar solutions we could provide to them. We just recently got approval for a new EV pilot program that we would provide customers with options for charging infrastructure. I think those are some good examples of really focus on, again, the affordable, reliable, and clean energy infrastructure. Scott, I don't know if you have anything else.
Great, thanks, Shah. Karen or Mike, anything on the topic around technology investment?
Sure, I'd just like to add that I would say we're pretty risk averse to begin with for two reasons. One, we have to meet permits, so we don't want to do anything that would risk meeting permit. Secondly, we always recognize that we're using ratepayers and taxpayers' money, so we're very careful when we make those investments. However, we do innovate, and a good example of how the regulation and the innovation can come together and work. Probably about 2 years ago, the DNR and EPA were looking at the process that we use for producing milorganite and how we measure the temperature, and they questioned whether that truly met the intent of the regulations. So ultimately, they required us to make some changes to that, and our engineers were able to, working with the DNR and the EPA, were able to come up with a way to meet the regulations and do it in an innovative way, all within the bounds of the regulations themselves. And we were able to implement this change in our process, which actually just about 2 weeks ago, they came back in for final inspection and said it was a great and met the requirements. We did some papers on it because it was a unique way. So there's one where we were able to innovate in order to meet the regulations. So it's a great example of how it can work.
That's great, thank you. Karen?
Yeah, I think Mike put it pretty well. We are extremely risk adverse, and we should be. I mean, we take our job very seriously in providing clean drinking water service to our customers, and would not want to make changes quickly that could change that. And we've seen that happen in other utilities throughout the country where they've changed their water supply source and seen some pretty detrimental health effects as a result. So we're very cognizant that the regulators are there for a specific reason, the DNR to ensure that the drinking water is safe, the Public Service Commission to ensure that we're financially sustainable. And we work closely with them to evaluate how technology can help and advance those two initiatives. So to that end, we're doing a lot more bench scale testing, pilot studies. We're relying on our national partners and our local partners who have moved forward with these technology initiatives first, so that we can learn from their examples and their mistakes and ensure that we're in communication to do it just as well, if not better.
Great, thank you all. Next question. Each of your organizations have an interest in public commitment to our community. Talk about what those efforts mean and what goal you are working towards. Shah or Scott?
Sure. When you think about, we're serving the community, we're part of the community. So we're involved in a variety of aspects supporting the community, because a healthy community means for a healthy utility. And we look at it in several different ways, everywhere from, we have a supplier diversity program to invest. I think this last year we did about $130 million in Wisconsin with supplier diversity individuals, trying to get that network of additional, options for us to purchase goods and services from, strengthens the community, but gives us also options on the development side. We also work with the community, such as we have a student program in Milwaukee, where we're working with students. And I think we have about 35 students from Milwaukee working on internships in our system to try to grow the community that way and really be a part of the community, and yet provide some really good jobs in the future and development for those individuals. And probably the last item, or another item, is we're very active in the community with our foundation. We've spent, or invested, I should say, about $14 million just in Wisconsin, whether it's in low income, education, arts, just to raise up the community to make it even a better place to live. So we're involved in a variety of aspects to support the community, but also to support the business in the business area, whether it's supplier diversity, to helping with jobs, to the foundation.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Mike or Karen, anything for you?
I spoke just very briefly about our efforts with the U.S. Water Alliance and advancing water equity, and MMSD has been a fantastic partner to that end. Their approach to water equity is a different approach to utility management. And as a publicly owned utility, we know that our customers are our shareholders, and we really see the value in having a strong community, and we take that commitment seriously. The focus of our community involvement through that water equity task force is workforce development. We have a great need within our utility and our workforce to ensure that we have the capacity to serve our customers. We're at risk through attrition and retirements that we see moving forward, and just examples from the past 5 years that we are at risk of seeing potentially a loss of about 40% of our employees, and having to replace about 40% of our employees, whether it be through them taking other opportunities or retiring in the next 5 years. And it's concerning to an extent where we are working very closely with our public partners. We are being extremely transparent in our communication and really utilizing the inspiration that got me into public service of working for the community, being a part of the community, and making sure that we have direct communication with our employees so that we can work towards retention efforts. We can ensure that our employees are being ambassadors for our utility and the work that we do, and the pride that we all have in our workforce and in serving our communities. So we're focusing heavily on that through our communications in order to ensure that we have a water utility that looks like our community and fully represents our community.
Great, thank you for that. Mike Martin, I know we did get a question in the chat that you wanted to respond to
Yes.
live. And the question came from Greg Nickerson, who lives near Jones Island, and wondered if there are efforts to minimize the odor issue
Sure.
when the
Yep.
winds are blowing.
Be happy to answer that question. So obviously with a wastewater treatment plant close to an area that's been rapidly developed, we certainly had an increase in complaints or concerns raised by the local community over the last several years. Interestingly enough, probably about 4 or so years ago, the number of complaints spiked. And what we ultimately found is that there was one industrial discharger who was putting something in there that made the wastewater smell like kind of like perfume sheets that you would use in your dryer. So we were able to work with that industry, and that reduced our complaints a lot. But in that effort, we set up internally some folks who respond to odor complaints. So since that, we've been able to gather data. Also, just in the past year, we have completed an odor study of Jones Island, and we've identified a number of improvements that we plan to implement as long as our budget allows over the next several years. I don't know that I think we just got the results back in and are scheduling those at this point in time. So those improvements. We also have made some interim improvements to our odor control system at Jones Island. So I can't promise results over the next year, but over time, we do plan to reduce the impact of odors from the Jones Island treatment plant.
So you promise focus and resources. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, last question, and you have not disappointed, panel. Lots to talk about, but considering your commitment to environmental revitalization, what do you envision for Milwaukee in the next 5 to 10 years? And what is needed to make that happen? And particularly, how can the business community support you in those efforts? Shaw or Scott?
I can start. I think, we're very excited about the future of the state, and particularly from environmental, the climate progress that we all together will make. I think one thing that will be really important is the public-private partnership. So the company leaders, account managers, the other company representative obviously are serving as liaisons with the state, region, and local economic development agencies in Wisconsin. So we could provide the support and work together, and so that we all work as one community versus just each individual company. I think that would be really important for the future.
That's great. Karen or Mike?
Well, I think our customers have already been taking many actions toward environmental sustainability. We've seen consumption go down, as you saw in my graph, and that is by design. That's not by accident. It makes great business sense to reduce the amount of water that you're using, and it makes sense from a residential perspective too. I joked about it a little bit with WEC Energy's and us making the great business decision to reduce our energy consumption, but it also helps those of us that are in charge of treating that water or, producing that energy in managing our assets and working towards efficiency ourselves and ensuring that we are protecting that great resource that we have in Lake Michigan and our other great resources. If I had one request from the business community, it would be to just fervently support investment in water infrastructure. We have been underfunded, and we're putting projects aside because we are so careful and diligent about keeping our rates low. And while we want to keep our rates affordable, we know that it is not sustainable to be reacting to situations versus being proactive and investing in that infrastructure in our distribution mains and our water treatment plants.
Great. Mike, anything for you beyond
Yeah.
odor control?
Sure. Actually, it was funny while Karen was talking, I swear to God, I saw an email go across my desk about putting that project in the 2022 budget. So anyway, that's kind of a side. So for us, one of the bigger efforts we're really excited about is the opportunity to work on what's called the area of concern, the Milwaukee River Estuary Area of Concern. That's a designation from the EPA about the Milwaukee River Estuary all the way up to Cedarburg, many miles of streams where there's legacy pollutants in the sediment of the rivers. And we've been working with partners, EPA, Department of Natural Resources, non-government organizations to work through funding for that. We've worked with WEC Energy actually on a portion of that. And we really want to partner with multiple businesses and stakeholders to help clean up those legacy pollutants, PAHs, PCBs, heavy metals, and so on, and help us make what's already a great resource even cleaner, and really help Milwaukee, the Milwaukee area, in terms of getting the AOC designation lifted and achieving clean, fishable and swimmable waters.
Great. Thank you, Mike. And thank you all. Reliable, resilient, affordable, innovative, while still balancing risk carefully, depending on the C-trend, supplier diversity, significant supplier diversity, student programs, higher educational partnerships, both to build your own pipeline of talent, but also for research, the foundation and the direct investment into the community on the part of certainly the WEC Energy's foundation being just a huge investor in the community, but all the efforts, advancing water equity and equity efforts throughout, workforce development, retention development, and servant leadership on the part of all four and the organizations that you represent. Scott, Shaw, Karen, and Mike, thank you for the time today. Greg, back to you.
Thanks, Mary Ellen, and thanks again also to Scott, Shaw, Mike, and Karen. It's really energizing. Really energizing. Good play on words there, Heather. She wrote the script. To hear such great information all around today. Utilities are so important to our businesses, our community, and any potential future businesses we are attracting to our region. There are great resources on all of your websites that we will send out to our members in our meeting recap newsletter. As a reminder, we will not be meeting in July and August per our typical GMC membership calendar. We do have some engagement planned around book club and other opportunities, so keep an eye on your newsletter. And please, I urge you, as Dr. Raymond said, this Delta variant is starting, it's like, we start to hear things and it's starting to change a little bit, and our trend is not going down anymore, and it's sort of, we're picking things up. Well, let's get everybody vaccinated. The vaccines work. And I don't know about you, but I like having my life back. I like going to the office. I like going out to dinner. I like going to the movies. I have a little bias there, but I like going to a baseball game. And so it's in our hands to control it. We have to get people and work to get our community vaccinated so that we can maintain our lead and maintain our quality of life. And so we can have meetings where we do things, but talk about things other than COVID. This was a great meeting. I love the utility idea. Thank you, Mary Ellen. That was great. This meeting is adjourned. Happy summer, everybody.